I was last week. I was getting across the street. Actually, I was getting a COVID test before Thanksgiving, and I was waiting in line for a little bit. Talked to a parishioner, and he was just asking how's it going with the three parishes, kind of the responsibilities of all three, and so we talked a little bit about it. And I was telling him how, I guess because I had just experienced this earlier, a little before our conversation, the mail, having to open mail for three parishes is kind of crazy. It's just like, I'm used to originally just being here, and stuff from the diocese would only come here, one set of bills and junk mail. Now it's like that times three, so it's just kind of a pain. That piece to it I'm not really liking so much. I got this letter not too long ago. It was from an attorney's office. It was junk mail. I could tell it was junk mail, but so I was getting ready to toss it. But attached to the letter there was this like a photocopied article. Like you could tell it was in some paper or something, I guess. And the title of it kind of caught my eye, so I stopped the process of throwing it out, and I gave it a look. And the title was 5 Times in History When a Great Idea Was Stolen. And really what the article was describing were these great inventions, historical inventions, which were stolen because the inventor never got a patent. Thomas Edison was the first example they gave. He's credited with the light bulb. According to this article, a German inventor had actually developed the light bulb 25 years before Edison, but he never applied for a patent. Albert Einstein was another one. Invented the theory of relativity, right? Maybe not. According to this article, it said that there was this French physicist who had written 30 books pretty much on this theory way before Einstein came along. He didn't have a patent. Galileo telescope, a Dutch inventor. They say, actually, he invented the telescope. He applied for a patent. For whatever reason, never got it. Galileo heard about it, kind of built his own, and got credit for it. Alexander Graham Bell, telephone guy, an Italian inventor, came up with the phone, but Bell beat him to it. This guy got a patent, but then I guess failed to renew it, and in that period of time where he lost it, this guy kind of stepped in and got credit. Anyway, that's what this article, most of what it was saying, kind of interesting. I don't know if it's really historically accurate. I looked up a couple of those people to see if any of this seemed at all historical, and it kind of did a little bit. I don't know, but and again, this was sent from a patent lawyer, so the guy who was clearly trying to get people to get a patent. So, take that with its grain of salt. But this idea of taking an idea from someone else and using it for something important, that's kind of interesting, or it's interests me. For this reason, we did it. The church did it in a really big way with Christmas. We didn't even celebrate Christmas as a church for about 300 years after Jesus. We didn't have a Christmas, there was no midnight mass, there was no Christmas pageants and things like that. Hundreds of years before it became, something significant. The question when they started to say, we need to celebrate his birth. It's crazy that we're not. Then the question became, well, when was he born? We don't know. We know details about his birth, but none of the Gospels mention, oh, he was born on this day. So we don't know. So we stole an idea from the pagans of the time, actually, because they were celebrating what we now would call the winter solstice, shortest day of the year, darkest day of the year, the shortest time, between on a given 24-hour period between sunrise and sunset. They didn't know the science, the pagans, but they were observant. They knew something was going on. They were watching it. They knew that winter was coming to an end. So they had a party to celebrate it, a festival. Now they worshiped the sun god, or multiple gods of the sun, for winning out. Like they kind of saw it as this, almost like this battle, this kind of cosmic battle between light and darkness. I think they were onto something. They really should have gotten a patent for that one. We don't buy the multiple gods thing. We don't buy this praying to the sun god. But this whole idea of awareness of light and dark, kind of like the victory of light over darkness, I think they got that right. I guess that's probably why we kind of stole it, because there is something very true about that. I think that's really what this season of Advent is about. It's the 4 weeks before Christmas to get us ready for Christmas. We light the candles. But on a very sort of practical, okay, so what do I do with this Advent season level? What should we do with it? Well, let's just go with this light-dark thing. Can you think of a part of your life that is sort of in darkness? Or maybe it's become even darker. Maybe in this past year, I think everybody probably to some degree would say, yeah, these last, whatever it's been, 9 or 10 months have been tough and stressful and frustrating, disruptive. And maybe I haven't handled that as well as, I haven't handled it well. So I'm a little darker in this last year. Maybe it goes beyond COVID, something going on in my life, maybe a relationship that's just not what it should be or where it should be. Like there's a little too much darkness in my life. I think Advent, in a way, is like a couple of weeks to kind of go after that. I guess maybe number one, name the darkness, and then number two, try to get rid of it. We had a meeting, parent meeting, about a week and a half ago for religious ed parents, and we had it here in the church, and it was for all grades, and it was a different kind of a night. We called it Reimagining Religious Ed, and the premise of it was kind of this. So the reason for the meeting was something's not working. Like something is kind of broken in terms of, the way we're trying to educate our kids in faith. And there's ways you can measure, I think, the lack of success. Kids make their first communion, so they're with us for first and second grade. And then the numbers of families that just sort of disappear then for a couple of years. You don't see them at all. You don't see their kids at all. Like the first communion was almost the first and a last moment. And then they kind of reappear around middle school because confirmation is coming. And they have to do a couple of years of that. And then they do that. And then they kind of disappear for good. Like graduate, it's really not, it's like graduation, not so much confirmation. It's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to just be getting started. post-confirmation. But in too many instances, it's kind of like it's ending after confirmation. Like the numbers of families that are just not practicing their faith. I mean, they'll get the sacrament, but that's it. Like nothing else. And we kind of got together, and the religious ed team, just to say, I think we got to look at this. Like, what are we doing wrong? I mean, I think oftentimes religious ed is a little too classroom-centered. It's a little too academic. Take out your textbook. And, I mean, that's got its place. But, man, kids are in school how many hours a day? Like, they don't really need another hour of classroom. And they're being taught, by, in most cases, catechists who are, not, in fact, not teachers. So it's very tough. But I guess the main point we really wanted to communicate to these parents was it cannot be done without you. Like, you have to be a part of this. You have to take the lead. Like, your kids will or will not have a relationship with Jesus because of you. Not because of me, not because of the director of religious ed, not because of some catechist. We're all secondary. At best, we help. But if parents aren't taking the lead with faith, if God talk, if prayer, if sacramental presence is not a part of a family's life, we're just spinning our wheels. And I think that's what we're kind of, the conclusion we're coming to. So the purpose of this night was to like Ma, Dad, you have got to invest in this. And if you're not, then it's like, don't even bother. You know what it's not? Religious ed is not, my kid is going for piano lessons. So what I'm going to do is I drop my kid off for piano lessons and I leave for an hour. And I pay somebody to teach that kid about playing the piano or dance lessons or whatever it is. And in those cases, the parents step away. I mean, we'll encourage practice, but we're not teaching them. I think what parents, more and more they think, no, it's our job to teach them about Jesus. No, it's not. It's their job. They are the primary teachers or not of Christ. I talked about it at this meeting. I call it this drop-off experience we have where we get the 6 o'clock Mass. This is, more pre-COVID when the kids had to be at the Mass. They come to Mass at 6, they got class at 7. At 1 minute to 6, I'd be walking up the steps to the begin Mass. A car pulls up, a kid gets out, goes up the steps into the church, and the car takes off. And it's like, oh man, anything we're going to do in the next 2 hours was just undone by the fact that Mom or Dad, they're dropping me. They're not guitar lessons. They will only believe in this if you believe in it. So it was kind of a night to maybe kind of challenge parents a bit and help them to kind of say, we want to help you guys in teaching your kids about faith. We showed a clip from a great scene from The Lion King, and it's where Simba is he's the future Lion King, and he's drifted. He's kind of gone off. He's not who he once was. And he's forgotten the things that he was taught, and he has this encounter with what's his father's name? Mufasa. Mufasa is dead, but he has this, it's like not a dream, it's like a ghost kind of encounter with his father. And his father challenges him. And this is part of what the father says to the son. You have forgotten me. You have forgotten who you are, and so you've forgotten me. Look inside yourself. You are more than what you have become. I think in some respects we've forgotten who we need to be. At least in this example with the parents and raising their kids with faith, it's like, I forgot that I need to be the primary voice. Somewhere along the line, I got away from that. And this isn't just about parents and religious ed. It's about whatever we've forgotten, whatever is true, whatever is timeless, whatever we need in life, that somewhere along the way I just kind of, I distanced myself from it. So now I'm like Simba, I'm kind of lost. Got this letter, I think I read part of this to you once before. It was from a kid who, St. Anthony's grad, where I was chaplain, and he was now in college, and he was at a funeral for a classmate of his, a St. Anthony's classmate, now a sophomore in college, who committed suicide. And he was at the funeral. And that class, when they were juniors in high school, they had a classmate who committed suicide. His name was Matt. Anyway, I was at this funeral for this, I was at both of the funerals. They're both, the kid was now in college. And this is what he says, or part of what he says. Dear Father Brian, I graduated from St. Anthony's 2 years ago. I recently saw you at Ryan's funeral. I wanted to go over and say hello after the Mass, but was honestly just too upset. I've been thinking a lot about St. Anthony's since I found out about Ryan. The night he died, I started getting calls from classmates, and I remember wanting so much to be back at St. Anthony's. My friends here at school were great and supportive, but there was only so much that they could say or do. I just remember desperately wanting to get to a church and be around people of faith. That was a given at St. Anthony's, and I'd never missed it as much as the night of Ryan's death. I'll always remember Mass at school the day after Matt died, and then the Mass the morning after September 11th. Kids were out the door. They were sitting on the floor because there was no room in the auditorium. That was the only place to be. There was nowhere else to go in those horrible moments. Just being around people of faith was enormously comforting. There's no chapel here on campus, and to be honest with you, I haven't made the effort to find out where Mass is offered since getting here. I'm not proud of that, and it took Ryan's death to remind me of what I got away from and what I was missing. Maybe that's one good thing that can come from something so wrong. I've realized that without faith in church, we really are lost. My friends at school, most of whom aren't very faithful, had little to say that night. Their presence was appreciated, but not being able to find hope and meaning and faith really made me feel lost. I'm grateful for what St. Anthony's gave me, and I guess that's really why I'm writing you this letter. Well, you know what? That's an Advent letter. Because this kid was saying, I kind of got lost. And I need to come back to what I know is true. That scene in that movie, that was an Advent scene. I forgot who I was. And because of that, I'm more in the dark than I'd like to be. My life isn't quite where it could be and should be. We're all guilty of it every time. That's what sin is, right? These 4 weeks are kind of a gift, or they can be, to kind of just say, let me go after, chip away at the darkness, so that come December 24th, I am in a better place. I am more surrounded by light than dark. Isaiah says it. It's pretty blunt talk. All of us have become like unclean people. All of our good deeds have become polluted rags. We've all withered like leaves carried away in the wind. Man, polluted rags. What in my life has become kind of polluted? What's something that I've lost, or something I've forgotten? Maybe something in this culture that's almost been kind of like those patent stories. I had it, but it's been kind of taken from me. It's Advent. Take it back.